Okay, welcome to today's lesson on training, recovery, and intensity, and why you're probably doing too much. So we're going to talk about overtraining, recovery, man, all these things that kind of go into it. So we're going to start off straight into it with, actually, we're going to skip ahead. We're going to leave that at the end. We're going to start off with this one here, MRV. As you can tell, I am always a professional at this, which basically stands for maximum recovery or recoverable volume, depending how you want to say it. Volume, not NE. Volume. So every single one of us has a maximum recoverable volume or threshold that we can recover from training. And that is basically based on, oh dear, see? Make sure you guys can see that. There we go. There we go. Nice. Essentially, think of it as a water bottle. Your capacity to handle things, life, stress, training, maximal recoverable volume is the capacity you can handle training. So there is a certain maximum threshold that you can recover from volume, and anything over that will be junk volume, junk training, which was be too much. So, there was a big trend on training of doing 3 sets to 15 reps. Then it went to 3 times 12. Then it was like 4 times 8, 12. Now the shift is more to 2 sets to failure, which is actually a lot more science. Well, science was always there. It's just trends, I think, and kind of going through there. But essentially, 2 sets to near failure will produce just as much, if not more, hypertrophy effect than doing, say, 4 sets of 15 or 12 reps, because you were training endurance and you're not able to do recovery. So if you're stressed in a high fatigue state, if you're doing too much, you're not going to be able to recover. Now, your threshold, your MRV, your maximal recovery volume threshold, does improve. Your capacity to handle stuff improves. Think of it like this: when you're training in the beginning and you do a session, the first, time you're in the gym and you're learning and stuff, and you've done a couple of lunges and some squats, and you could not walk for a week. Like, remember the first time you went to the class, it was horrible. And then 3, 4, 5 sessions later, or a couple of hit classes later, you're suddenly able to make the class work. You're not as sore. You are stronger. You're adapting. So your ligaments, your muscle, your joints, your capacity, your maximum recoverable volume has increased. Your threshold has increased. That's why we need progressive overload. So that's a very important aspect of training and recovery, and not to overtrain. And the way we gauge that is by tracking your sets, your training, and we make sure we stick within the recommended ranges for hypertrophy, for muscle building, for your goal. Essentially, there are some science behind that. I'm not going to get into that too much. But another way to see it, and the easiest way to judge it, is: are you getting stronger? Are you building muscle? And are you getting towards your goal? If neither of those things are happening, maybe you're doing too much or the wrong way. So have a look at that. Next up is sleep. I talk about it all the time, and I will keep talking about it to the end of life, till the end of time life. 7 to 8 hours. You don't need more. Probably don't. You probably could not get a little bit less either. I've been surviving on 6 hours of sleep for the past 2 weeks, and I could tell I've been feeling poor and struggling with it. And this is me using anecdotal evidence on myself, but just to gauge performance, for example. Now, there are a few people. There's a special case of a few people that can survive in 6 hours. And survival is one thing, recovery is another thing. You know what I'm saying? I could survive in 6 hours, but recovery and optimal is not enough. I could tell my performance, my headspace, my brain fog, my cortisol stress was up higher on the 6 hours. So, and I go to bed at 10. I have a routine, and I get up at 5. I want to get up at 5, but I keep getting up at 4. And I was like, okay, that's 6 hours. It's not good. So last night I went to bed at 9. I was like, okay, 9:30, lights out. And I got up at 5 today. So I got 6.5, 7 hours of sleep. And I feel like a brand new man. So it's important that you make the sacrifices to get your sleep. So what I did was, which was really hard, this is again anecdotal evidence for me, but I know it works a lot for other people, is I actively put my phone away at 9 p.m. and I didn't check it. It was so hard not to check my phone, for any notifications, for anything. And I read a book, which was, I was like, what? But it made a big difference. So I'm going to try and practice that discipline to an extent. Now, I'm always working. I'm a coach, so I've got people from across the world that might text me at 8 p.m. So I'm on, but it's not an incredible fire that needs to be put out straight away to sacrifice my needs and my wants and my recovery kind of thing. So, balance. So the point is, if you're struggling to get to sleep because you get up early, maybe go to bed earlier. vice versa, right? So it's important. Discipline, which is the next thing, which is very important because I like to draw these lines. I don't know. I feel like this is my teaching style for now. It might evolve. It might change something. But you see, this all comes in together because you need maximum recovery volume to sleep properly to recover. But you also need discipline in order to sleep correctly. And with the right discipline, you also need to make sure you stop with your training so you don't push too hard. You see how it's all interlinked? It's all together. But you need to be disciplined to get your sleep and recover. To be disciplined to push harder. So if some sessions you feel like I've got more left in the tank, but you have hit your threshold, should you do more? You shouldn't, because discipline should keep you grounded. You should stay focused on what matters, and that is your goal. That is that. So I guess the easiest example that comes to mind is a soldier who has a mission, is disciplined to go to objective A and take the objective A. He doesn't suddenly, take side trails and does objective Z, X, Y, and then come back to A. He is focused on his mission. So you have to kind of adapt that mindset. Discipline means saying no to things. No to things. If it's going to ruin your sleep, is it going to affect your training? Is it going to affect your stress? Is it going to cause unnecessary fatigue on you, mentally, physically? All those things you have to consider. So you have to practice discipline, which is a part of delayed gratification and not dopamine and not instant gratification. I'm recording good. I always check this. It's just part of my process now. Which leads me on to the next part, which is nutrition. Very important. We know that. It's important to eat to recover. It's important to eat your calories. The amount of women that I coach that are severely under eating is basically everyone I'm board that is new, that's never had a coach, they severely undereat. They've always been stuck in the 12 to 1600 calorie ranges. And when you have to educate them saying, hey, you can get away with 1800, 2000 calories, 2400 calories or something, they freak out. And because it's a process, and people are so unrealistic with the expectations of what is achievable and how quickly it is, that they assume if they eat a lot of calories that they'll just get fat. And it's not the case. Most of the time, the calories will your body will regulate, and you'll suddenly be in a state of homeostasis and no longer in a state of stress and perpetual fatigue and cortisol levels through the roof. So nutrition is very important. You need to have carb, protein, all the sources, to make sure you're sticking to that. But I'd say actually focus on carbs. Carbs. Shoulders sore. I did bench yesterday, that's why. Carbs, they help you sleep, they help you recover, they help you build muscle, they help you regulate your system, all these things. It's important. It's an important part of this whole picture and recovery. I read an article the other day talking about having a bit more carbs before bed to potentially increase your quality of sleep and help your regulate your nervous system and all these things. So that's something to consider as well, right? Right, and the last thing was identity. I talk a lot about identity, and I will be making it my identity to talk about identity for a long time because I want to. Identity essentially means is this person who does these things, the person who trains smart, who gets enough sleep, who is disciplined, who is on top of the nutrition and their training and recovery. Who is this person and how do I become that? You have to make that your identity. So you say that person is here and you were here, and how do you become this person, right? How do you get to become this person? So it's you and your identity. See, I got it. I'm not English, right? English is not my first language. You have to make all of this your identity. So that person who has all these things, how do they identify? Are they the kind of person that gets up in the morning? Are they the kind of person that's disciplined? Are they the kind of person that goes out on the weekends and ruins their stress? Make that your identity. Now I'm not saying switch 20 like 180 and become the super boring disciplined A4 person. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying you need structure. And if goal setting and structure implementing hasn't worked so far, if you've been trying this for a long time and it hasn't worked, why don't you try a different approach? Why don't you try something else? Why don't you make all of this your identity and see if that sticks? Because it's not going to take away from your life. The people that are fit, that are active, that are on their or shape. They still go out, they still drink, they still have a social life. It's just that they fit those things around their life, not the other way around. You're thinking of how do I fit fitness and health and recovery into my life, and then my life is social and all these things and distractions and dopamine. They're thinking, oh, I'm a fitness athletic person who is my identity is that and identify as all these things. How do I fit and make time for social occasions that drain me, fatigue me, and take me out of my peace? And then they limit themselves to those things. So it's all about flipping that perspective. Anyways, that is today's lesson. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.